Slay the Spire is a roguelike deck-building game. You play as a dungeon-crawling adventurer who attempts to climb up a monster-ridden spire while killing everything that stands in your way. You have 3 tools at your disposal. Relics are permanent effects that you'll get throughout your run. Potions are one-time benefits that you can use at pretty much any time. And of course, since it's a deck builder, you'll have your deck that will be constructed throughout your run. You'll walk through the rooms on your map, making decisions on which path to go down when it splits in multiple directions. There's a few different types of rooms, including normal enemies, elite enemies, shops to buy new cards at or remove a card at, campfires to rest at or upgrade one of your cards at, and of course question mark rooms, which can be any of the previous room types, as well as special events that might offer a unique effect. The bulk of your time will be spent engaging with enemies, though. Enemies are fought with a mix of attack, skill, and power cards. You'll be notified of an enemy's intent on every turn, so you can react appropriately. Every time you win an encounter against any enemy, you'll be given the choice of one of 3 cards to add to your deck permanently. The game does have a little bit of a learning curve, so here are 3 lessons that I had to beat into my head over my time losing with Slay the Spire. Number 1 is don't undervalue block. A good deck can block all damage coming your way reliably. All 3 base game characters have consistent ways to generate block. In my very early days with Slay the Spire, when I had to choose between attacking but not killing an enemy and blocking some damage they were about to do, I would choose to play the attack almost every time, thinking that I'd be able to rest and heal later. This proved to be fatal on harder difficulties. Lesson number 2 is relics win runs. Many of the relics are outstanding on their own. A good couple of relics can take a mediocre deck and make it amazing. Because relics are so good and you get a relic for fighting elites, it's generally a good idea to take on as many elite fights as your deck can handle. For a long time I was doing the exact opposite and avoiding elites whenever possible. But to really see success with Slay the Spire, you have to take those risks early on. And lesson number 3 is take a few early attacks even if they're bad. A critical piece of the puzzle that I was missing was I would hold off on getting any cards until I saw good cards. But you don't want to show up to your first elite fight with only strikes in your deck. Take 1 or 2 early attacks even if they're not your favorite ones. Maybe lesson 3A is that I almost always tried to remove a card when I got to a shop. Sometimes the best move is not to thin your deck, but to buy a card that will help you more significantly. Of course, you can feel free to take that slim fast if the shop isn't offering anything to your liking.
Now, does this shop have any worthwhile cards or not?
Now we're going to dive into trophies. The game is roguelike, and many of the trophies require a dedicated run to go for them. Because of that, it's a little tough to isolate which trophies people are going to have trouble on. We're actually going to do a Tales of the Platinum first here, and at least mention every trophy on the list. For most runs, the game is comprised of 3 acts. Each act has 3 potential bosses and randomly selects one to be the boss for that run. However, if you haven't beaten all of the bosses for a specific act yet, the game will ensure that your boss is one that you haven't beaten yet. You'll have to conquer each of the 9 bosses in order to get their specific trophy. There's also an optional Act 4, which has some unlock requirements. First, you have to beat the game with each of the 3 original characters for their 3 trophies. Then on future runs, you can unlock Act 4 by getting all of the 3 keys. One key is from any camp that you can take instead of choosing to rest or upgrade a card. The second key is from any chest, and you can take that instead of the relic that's normally inside. And the last key is from a specifically marked elite on the map that has some sort of extra buff applied to them. You won't know what that extra buff is until you engage with that enemy. You can get all 3 of the keys in any of the acts spread out throughout your run, but I generally found it easiest to get them all in Act 1. Once you have all 3 keys, the game will continue after the Act 3 boss, and you'll get to face a mini-boss, and then the heart. You will have to kill the heart with all 3 characters for another 3 trophies. The Ironclad is the warrior class, and the class that I played the most. So we're going to start with him and cover a ton of different trophies. Impervious and Barricaded are 2 trophies that require you to amass a ton of block on your character, which typically goes away at the start of your next turn. That's why I recommend going for them in Ironclad, as he has access to both of the cards that are the trophy's namesakes. Barricade is a power that allows you to keep your block between turns. Impervious gives you a ton of block at once, but it's generally a one-time use card. Entrench doubles your block, so it's another good card to watch out for if you're going for these trophies. The Ironclad is also great at amassing tons of strength. Jaxed will require you to get 50 strength in one combat. To help with that, I'd recommend Demon Form, which is a power that gives you strength every turn, and can get this trophy by itself if you're willing to wait long enough. While something like Limit Break Plus can speed up the process significantly when paired with any of the strength granting cards. You'll also want to watch out for the Ooh Donut trophy. This one is more RNG than most of the other ones. You'll need your Act 3 boss to be Donu and Deka, which is completely random chance. And you'll need to get the Feed card, which is another random chance. Once you get both of those things lined up, it's pretty easy though. Now, none of these next 5 trophies require you to get them in Ironclad, but that's where I got them, and all in the same run. You Are Nothing is for killing a boss on turn 1. Perfect is for killing a boss without taking any damage. The Transient is for killing the Transient, a monster with 999 health who runs away after 5 turns. Infinity is for playing 25 cards in one turn, and Minimalist is for winning with 5 cards or less in your deck. For all these trophies, I had a very simple deck that was comprised of Bash and 2 drop kicks, and some other cards that don't really matter. Bash applies Vulnerable, and then you can infinitely play drop kicks until everything in the combat is dead. This took many runs to set up, and there's probably better ways to go after these trophies, but this is how I did it. I also used Ironclad to go after Who Needs Relics, Common Sense, and Speed Climber. Who Needs Relics is unlocked by beating the game with just 1 relic. The Ironclad starting relic heals you for 6 HP every combat, and that was just too good for me to pass up. Common Sense requires you to beat the game using only common cards, which is fairly easy to do with an Ironclad defense deck, as Body Slam, a critical card in that deck, is a common card. Speed Climber is for beating the game in under 20 minutes. Fast AoE cards like Whirlwind was really the key for me. Okay, so we're finally off of Ironclad, we're going to jump onto the Silent. And with that, we get a whole new collection of cards, because each of the characters have their own unique cards that make up their decks. The Silent is the rogue class, so obviously she's got dexterity, shivs, and lots of poison. Personally, I had a lot of trouble getting shiv decks to work correctly for me, but you have to play 10 shivs in one turn for the Ninja trophy. Blade Dance Plus adds 3 shivs to your hand, and Nightmare adds 3 copies of a card to your hand next turn. That's almost the whole trophy in just 2 cards. Throw in a copy of Infinite Blades to get the last one, and you've got 10 shivs. You'll probably get the Pact trophy on accident at some point, but if you don't, I think it's a really good fit for the shiv decks. Now, Poison is where the magic really happened for me in Silent. For trophies, we got Catalyst for getting 99 poison on an enemy, Plague for killing 3 guys with poison in the same combat, and hell, let's throw in Come At Me for winning a combat while playing no attacks. The cards to watch out for these trophies are Noxious Fumes, it's just free poison every turn, Catalyst, which triples the amount of poison that's on an enemy, and maybe Nightmare again, because if you could Nightmare a Catalyst, you would get to triple the poison 3 times, and that clearly adds up very quickly. And finally, for characters, we have the Defect, who is sort of like a wizard. I love the Defect. He makes orbs that autocast spells every turn. They're absolutely beautiful. I'm also really, really bad at playing the Defect. Powerful is probably the easiest trophy to get with this character. We're looking for 1 card, Creative AI. Once you get it, play it, and just hang out and let the cool powers roll in until you have 10. Focused can also be done with 1 card. You're looking for Consume, which gives you focus but loses an orb slot. You could play it repeatedly even if you can't lose any more orb slots, so really you just have to play that single card enough times. As far as Defect trophies go, Neon might be the toughest one to pull off. You need to get 9 plasma orbs in 1 turn, which generate more actions. I used Meteor Strike 3 times in order to generate all of that plasma. While playing Meteor Strike the second time will give you plenty of energy to play it future times, getting the 5 energy to play it the first time is kind of tough. Then you need to set up ways to play it multiple times, maybe with a hologram, or a duplication potion, or a liquid memories potion. It's just a lot of setup to make this trophy happen. And you need an enemy who can live through 3 meteor strikes, so that's something to be on the prowl for. And then we have a few trophies that can be unlocked with anyone. Shrug It Off is for winning a battle with 1 HP, and it's pretty easy to do once you see an opening. Adrenaline can be unlocked with just the Ice Cream Relic, which passes unused energy onto later turns. Purity can be unlocked with just about any tiny deck that has at least 1 card in it that exhausts others. Oh, and you'll have to do 1 daily climb for My Lucky Day. It's a run that changes every day and has different modifiers in it. You can't unlock other trophies in daily climbs, so don't try to do anything like that. They thought of that. Which brings us to your Ascension runs. There are 3 Ascension trophies, 1 for just unlocking the mode, 1 for beating level 10, and 1 for beating all 20 levels. Ascension is just a more difficult run, with every level adding something new to make your life more miserable. Each level individually, compared to the previous one, isn't that bad, but comparing a normal run to an Ascension 20 run is like night and day. You don't have to beat the heart in any of the Ascension levels in order to move on. You only have to beat Act 3. Honestly, the biggest jump in difficulty for me was between Ascension 19 and Ascension 20. Ascension 20 forces you to fight 2 Act 3 bosses back to back, which could be a run killer for anybody. Ascension 20 will probably be your last trophy, as it requires tons of runs to even unlock an attempt for it. Slay the Spire took a very long time for me to get into it. It took multiple friends telling me that it was fantastic before I even gave it a first try for real, and even then, I still gave up and had to come back to it months later. But now it's my turn to promise you that if you're into card games, this is worth checking out. If you're willing to give it a real chance, you'll have a great time. If you like this video and you want to see more Slay the Spire content from us, Matt and I recorded a commentary track over my Ascension 20 run. We talk about specifics in that run, but we also sort of talk about the game in general and our different experiences because we played different characters throughout Ascension. Or if you want to see more Platinum Trophy content like this, feel free to tune in next time.
Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba, but it does contain the unstoppable
Corruption.